overdrives are coming into play already, which I figured it would be a little bit later, but I mean this display, it was more like first taste kind of thing. Kind of like when we first got Shiki's overdrive to a degree, because that was done more as like it was like the short stomp power up that a lot of main characters get, like their first power up. I always say first power up's free, but their whole setup usually goes pretty quickly. And Homura's, I mean, like, it doesn't look like the fight is fully finished. I would guess it's essentially done, because if Milani is astonished at overdrive, it either is like she also can use overdrive and Milani will maybe whip her overdrive up and then we'll get like more of a fight, or she's like, wow, this person has overdrive and she's not gonna have it, and in which case I would assume in most cases that a character with overdrive is going to beat a character without overdrive, because it's like it's like a stage in your powers. It's like in Bleach having Shikai versus Bankai. It doesn't, I wouldn't imagine it automatically gives you the victory, but it would be such an overwhelming advantage to have it, and it would be different than using it versus non-using it. Like, whereas Justice, I don't think Justice would require his overdrive to beat Homura, whereas he still should have it. Characters like him should definitely have something like overdrive, whereas Milani is still in that area where it's like, we don't really know, because the only people we've seen with overdrive, like for sure overdrive, are people like Shiki, like like Draken Joe. I would assume Narrow's would be really weird now that I think about it, because like I've gone back and forth of whether or not Narrow is a fighter, but I've never really wondered what his ether gear, like, overdrive would be. I wonder if he's not a fighter and it is done in, like, it's done in, like, a way that he's, like, foreseeing events, like, the dice are telling him things. I wonder if his overdrive would actually kind of, like, result into, like, maybe it was just kind of, like, enhance it, like, that he can also communicate with all of his forces, because that essentially is where I would guess, in the case of his powers aren't for fighting, they're more for commanding and like strategy in a war, then I would assume the most logical upgrade, like a big scale upgrade, would be to outright just be able to communicate with the masses of his of his kingdom. Because I mean, like, really, like, when you think about it, it is like, it would just be automatically a big thing. It's like a very basic kind of power, but I mean, like, done over a large scale, plus with how it works, it would be like if you had the power to predict the future. It's like an easy way to do it. You had the power to predict the future, but you still have to inform people of it, versus if you just outright told them. Like if you don't have to call and inform somebody something, you just instantly think it goes in their head. Bam. That's gonna solve a lot of things, especially in a battle, because you're gonna know, like, oh, get word to, so and so, they're about to get ambushed, but it's like, there's still a time period of like, will the word get to them or not, or what? Versus like instantly getting to them, and then they, essentially no one would be able to surprise anybody else, and you would have the surprise advantage on all your enemies. But Homura versus Milani, I actually liked Milani's powers in this chapter, and it's one of those things where if Milani is only going to really be this one chapter fight, which I'm okay with, like first fight, she didn't really have any hype. I mean, like, so far she's already got pretty cool powers. I like her design, but if she's only gonna have essentially this chapter fight, I'm perfectly fine with it, because like one of the things I always really enjoy is when they have a character. It doesn't matter the series. Like, and last time I brought up this example, at least off the top of my head, was Doom in 100 Years Quest from the Drasil arc. Whereas or even Gears too. When you have a character that like the manga doesn't intend to stick around, like somebody that they're going to get rid of within the next couple chapters, I really like it when they throw a bunch of attacks and techniques of their abilities, because it's like, well, if we're not going to get this character in, you might as well find out at least what they're capable of doing. Because it's one of those things that I think is more unfortunate when you have a character that only gets like a one chapter fight if they only have like one attack. It's just like, man, you can see how little like probably went into this character, where it was only supposed to just be like a bump in the road versus like a short-paced fight. I was like, Milani, we see a bunch of stuff from her attacks, like obviously the base one that we saw, being able to like pull somebody to her mirror world, as well as turn their actual body as like a reversed evil version of themselves. She can attack through mirrors. The mirrors being broken not really mirrors being broken not really affecting her powers is actually something that I was really impressed with, because you generally like, oh, the mirror broke, you don't have that, you can't use that certain ability, but it's like, it makes sense of like why you'd still be fine, because it's like, it doesn't, a full set mirror doesn't change the fact that if your power comes through, you know, the reflection idea of it, those broken pieces of mirror still are reflecting, and she can like attack through them, make copies of her limbs. I did really like her whole thing of like, if you attack a mirror while your reflection is in it, you feel the pain. It's not like direct damage. Like we didn't see like a slash appear across Homura's face when she slashed herself. That's one of the things I was looking for, but it seems like just pain. She even says that as long as she doesn't fear the pain, then she's gonna be fine, which makes sense, because pain is entirely a mental thing. You can work through pain. It's something in your brain telling you to stop, because obviously, you know, it could be harmful to you, versus like if you're aware something that is just a mindset, then you can get past it. So I actually thought that was a really good portion just for Homura herself. Her overdrive is cool. I really like the sleeves. I've always really enjoyed Homura's weird sleeve pieces. I don't know what those are called, but just another thing that kind of like to compare it to Sayla in Tartarus. She, like, her Aetherius form had a similar way that it's like ripped and tattered on the sleeves, and like she was not that big of a character in the Tartarus arc. Like she had a role, she had like some parts, but she wasn't like super up and important. Whereas like Homura's main cast person, Mishima's putting this on her. It's always a plus when a character aspect that it's like, it's really cool, but it ends up being underutilized, gets to reutilized. It's similar in Rave Master. You had some random like 2-chapter bad guy, Crash Cookie, have the whole power that Gildarts has essentially. So you're able to take a power that was really good, really cool to see like on a different character, but it's just like, man, you gave this to a fodder guy, but you know, seeing it reused into a different direction in a better setting is always one of those cool things that you get when you have a long-running mangaka like like Hiroshima. It's fun. I remember Seven Deadly Sins, because it was never confirmed. It was something that I was looking at. There was a guy who has an armor set that looks kind of like Galland, and I've always felt that like Shimabukuro, while picking out the designs for the Ten Commandments, just looked at this guy and like, man, this is a cool design. What if I made it more badass and then made that into Galland? Because I was always like, oh, did this guy's armor get based off of the character Galland? And because obviously, like, he would be known to a degree in history, like in a history book, maybe some guy had his armor designed off of, or something like that. Like I could see existing, but it's really cool. Homura's design, I like it. It's simplistic. I figured her design would be a little bit crazier, but I personally assume, this is just my belief, that her overdrive, similar to Shiki's, I don't think is fully complete. I would guess that this is just like kind of like the entry level. Because the thing about Draken Joe, I mean, like, we've only seen a couple overdrives, so we can't really say for sure. But like his overdrive would over his entire body. You know, overdrives can vary. Maybe that's just the way his was. But like Shiki's and Homura's only cover up part of their arms and legs, so I would assume that theirs just isn't fully progressed. This could be it, or maybe there's like, maybe your overdrive has like an equivalent to like your level or something. Maybe like the more powerful you get, the more your overdrive changes. I don't know. It's something that is, that's still a mystery right now. Like overdrive and ether gear are definitely one of the cooler things in Eden Zero that I really am enjoying finding out general information on, because I do like the ether gear power. It is really cool because, I mean, for the most part, like I've mentioned before, it's essentially like a schematics power. If you ever looked at like how piping works, and it's like how different pipes can like interchange to make water go in different areas, it's essentially that, but it's like redirecting your ether to match the way that a certain type of ether works. So Shiki's is getting rerouted to work similar to how gravity ether works. It's an interesting concept, but yeah, the fight itself was good. I did enjoy just seeing Homura get a cool fight. Her sword, I wonder if her sword got longer. It looks longer, at least in the panel that I saw. I have to go back and double check because I'm trying to remember if they had the two blades. Like Homura's weapons, they've been cool. Like, cause we know there's what, 5 of them. There's her long sword, her 2 short swords, her claws, and I might be forgetting one. But either way, like Homura, I'm guessing she'll get more later along the line, but it could just be the 5 and then upgraded the overdrive versions. Cause I would assume that her overdrive claws would look way different. That might be what Mishima's planning to do with her, like just have like a basic set of moves, but then the overdrives are all upgraded versions. And especially if like there's an upgraded version of the overdrive, like maybe this is like stage 1 and it's just like kind of like the first set of overdrive, and then you get to like the full body overdrive. Kind of like how you have like the ether lines, and then you have the full body ether lines where they start to kind of come off and they're like in that pseudo overdrive form. Maybe you have something like that for overdrive, where it's just like the first step, and then when it actually gets enough to kind of go over your whole body, and then we would get like another upgraded form. Like if you looked at Homura, she has 3 stages. There'd be like regular, first stage overdrive, and then like full overdrive. I mean, this could just be her full overdrive. I don't know. The reason that I feel one of the reasons rather that I feel like they're unfinished, not like their designs are unfinished, but it's just like we haven't seen the full form, is that we're only like what 145 chapters into Eden's Era, which is still a pretty good number. But like Shiki, who like he's gonna have another form. It'd be really weird to only give him the 1 power-up form. I mean, it doesn't have to be completely different, but if we could get this, it would essentially just have to be like an upgraded form. That's one of the reasons I think so too. It'd be like, are we not gonna get another upgrade for Homura within the whole series? I don't know. It would just be kind of weird to me. That's one of the things like I wondered about when it came to Homura's setup, is were we going to get overdrive Homura, or were we going to get that pseudo overdrive before that? Because we only really saw her base set, and then we saw like her different weapon forms, and she's got battle dress and stuff. But we never saw anything kind of like how Shiki and Jin have that version that starts going all over their body and stuff. I mean, she has her sword, which is technically already off her body, but it's a completely different style. Like, she's using her ether gear to form the sword. So I would consider the pseudo overdrive to kind of be that same thing. I don't know. It would be like skipping. I really would like to see more of the pseudo one, because I feel like it'd be skipping over some of the characters. It's not as important, but I would like to see the status of it. But I don't know. I'm guessing we're gonna start seeing the overdrives of all the characters within the next handful of chapters, within like the opening acts of this arc. I would assume like Jin is probably next. The chapter did end with Jin coming across Shiki, and whatever Shiki, like if Shiki blocked with gravity in some way, or maybe like figured out a way to escape, I don't know. That'll be really cool to see, just the general, his solution to it, I think is the best way to say it. Because I mean, if he just straight took the explosion, it's gonna depend on, did he tank it? Because if he tanked it, like, it's going to be an impressive durability feat for Shiki. But if he didn't, it would give us an idea of where Shiki's at right now. Plus, it would mean that Shiki is hurt and wouldn't be able to kind of like, I would assume fight for a little bit in this arc. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping Shiki figured out a way to block it or something. Because, like, even if he tanked it, I feel like he's going to have taken a considerable amount of damage. And with Shura in the ship, I don't really know, because they're gonna have to get rid of this dude. He's gonna have to get out of there. So we'll see exactly where those portions go. Like, everything is really just starting to kind of like kick up within the like I said, Milani is the first. She's the first person that we've seen out of the oceans to really go out and do stuff. So I don't really see like anything kind of like quelling down. Like, in reality, like, the war has just really started. Like, we have the interstellar army coming in. We've got Nero kind of like taking notice and like doing his thing. We've got Shura obviously up. We've got Galactica members coming in with Elsie. We got Ziggy out there somewhere. There's a lot of moving parts right now, but I would assume that it's not just that. I don't know. Mishima has this thing about having like a secret boss character all the time, so I'm guessing there's going to be like one additional member of the of Nero's Empire, unless that was supposed to be Shura. Like, Shura's like that secret boss character, but he's going to be way more active. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the whole fight with Homura, I thought that was pretty cool. Milani did have a good moveset for a character who's potentially only going to get a 1 chapter fight. but at the same time, like I said, when you have a like a very short fight, usually like one chapter fight, the character gets to like throw a bunch of moves onto display. That's always a thumbs up for me, because I at least appreciate getting to see what the character is made of before they end up getting defeated and likely not coming back. Because especially early like arc bad guys and ones again that only get that one chapter, they usually don't have the return value. They usually aren't a character that comes back and has like another big show. So we'll see that. Milani's fate isn't looking the cleanest, but at least she got to do something, and we can give that a thumbs up. So I would assume that either her fight will continue maybe in the next chapter or the chapter after that, or we're gonna just see her defeated and then Homura come out of the mirror and then proceed to the next bad guy that they're gonna face. The only thing right now that I would have like the question mark on is whose overdrive we're gonna get to next. I think the most likely ones are either Jin or Wise. I personally would prefer seeing Jin's next, because out of all of them, Wise is the overdrive I'm actually fine with waiting to see, because I mean it's still in his power, but I would rather see upgrades to the Arsenal suit. Like I would love to see his next power up be an Arsenal suit upgrade, and then he has like the ether lines like I talked about, like Shiki and Jin, where they're moving off his body. And then after that, maybe his next major fight is he gets the overdrive boost, or by the end of the arc rather. I'd be perfectly okay with that. I would like to see his next thing be an Arsenal upgrade, like maybe a slightly cooler suit, maybe it's got like a different setup, maybe his helmet is a little different. I don't know. Either way, comment below, thumbs up the video, friend the like button, subscribe on it, check out my other videos though, and then I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.